You have heard the stories. Engines that blow up at 500 hours. Cylinders that crack before the first annual. Camshafts that corrode just sitting in the hangar. You have seen the forums, the Facebook groups, the endless threads about what broke and how much it cost to fix. And you have started to wonder, is there anything built to last? Anything that will still be running when your grandchildren are old enough to fly? The answer is yes. But you have to look past the marketing, past the horsepower wars, past the shiny paint and the digital engine monitors. You have to look at the engines, the ones that were designed before accountants took over, the ones that were built to be repaired, not replaced, the ones that will outlive all of us. Let me start with a story. A friend of mine owns a 1968 Piper Cherokee. It has the Lycoming 0320 engine. That engine has been running since before the moon landing. It has been overhauled twice. It has over 4,000 hours on the airframe. It still starts on the first blade. It still burns less than a quart of oil every 10 hours. It still pulls like a mule. And my friend expects it to run for another 4,000 hours. Not because he is lucky, because that engine is overbuilt. It has thick cylinder walls. It has a forged crankshaft. It has steel connecting rods. It has a camshaft that is hardened to last. It was designed in the 1950s, when engineers did not worry about weight or cost. They worried about durability. And the 0320 is the proof. That engine is the Lycoming 0320. The 150 horsepower, 4-cylinder, air-cooled, horizontally opposed engine that powered half of general aviation. The Piper Cherokee, the Cessna 172, the Grumman Tiger, the Beechcraft Musketeer. Tens of thousands of them were built. Tens of thousands are still flying. And they will still be flying when your grandchildren are old. Why? Because the parts are everywhere. Because every mechanic knows how to work on them. Because the design is simple. 1 camshaft, 4 cylinders, 2 valves per cylinder. No turbo, no intercooler, no computer, no nonsense. It is the engine equivalent of a hammer. It does one thing. It does it well. It does it forever. Let me pause here. I want you to think about your own experience. Have you owned an airplane with an 0320? How many hours did you put on it? What broke? What never broke? Go to the comments. Tell me your story. Because the 0320 is just the beginning. There are 3 other engines that deserve a place on this list. Engines that are not as famous. Engines that the internet ignores. Engines that will outlive your grandchildren if you take care of them. Number 2. The Continental 0200. This is the little engine that could. 80 horsepower, 4 cylinders, air-cooled, horizontally opposed. It powered the Cessna 150, the Piper Tomahawk, the Beechcraft Skipper, and a dozen other light aircraft. It is small. It is simple. It is nearly indestructible. The 0200 has no starter on some versions, no alternator, no vacuum pump. Just an engine, a magneto, and a propeller. You hand prop it, you fly it, you land it, you do it again. There are 0200s with 10,000 hours, 15,000. I have heard of one with 18,000 hours on the original case. That is absurd. That is marine diesel territory. And the engine was still running strong. The secret of the 0200 is the low compression. 6.5 to 1. That means low stress, low heat, low wear. The cylinders are small, the pistons are light, the valves are simple. The engine is happy at 2,400 revolutions per minute all day. It does not want to run at redline. It wants to loaf. And when you loaf, you last. There is a reason the Cessna 150 is still flying 50 years after production ended. It is not the airframe, it is the engine. The 0200 will not die. Not because it cannot, because it will not. Number 3. The Lycoming IO360. This is the fuel-injected version of the 0360. 180 horsepower, 4 cylinders, fuel injection instead of carburetor. This engine powers the Cessna 172 Skyhawk SP, the Piper Archer III, the Mooney M20 and the Cirrus SR20. It is the modern workhorse of general aviation, and it is built like a tank. The IO360 has a counterbalanced crankshaft. It has parallel valves. It has a dual magneto system. It has fuel injection that is simple enough to fix with basic tools. The engine is not fancy, but it is tough. The IO360 has one weakness: the camshaft. If you do not fly regularly, the camshaft can corrode, the lifters can pit, the engine can eat itself from the inside. That is not a design flaw. That is a maintenance issue. The engine needs to fly. It needs to get hot. It needs to circulate oil. If you fly it every week, the IO360 will last 2,000 hours between overhauls. If you fly it every month, it might last 1,500. If you let it sit for 6 months, you are gambling. But if you treat it right, if you fly it regularly, if you change the oil on time, if you use the right additives, the IO360 will outlive you and your children, and maybe your grandchildren. Let me tell you about a specific example. A flight school in Arizona had a fleet of Piper Archers with IO360s. Those engines were run hard, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, high temperatures, high power settings, student pilots who did not know how to manage the engine. Those IO360s went 3,000 hours between overhauls. 3,000. That is double the recommended time. The engines were taken apart. The cylinders were still in spec. The cranks was still within limits. The cam was still smooth. The mechanic told me he had never seen anything like it. That is the IO360. It is not delicate. It is not fragile. It is a beast. Number 4, the Rotax 912. This is the outlier. The engine that traditional pilots love to hate. It is not a Lycoming. It is not a Continental. It is not air-cooled. It is liquid-cooled. It has 4 cylinders. It has overhead cams. It has a reduction gearbox. It has a computer-controlled ignition. It is complicated. It is modern. It is also nearly indestructible. The Rotax 912 makes 100 horsepower from only 1,300 cubic centimeters. That is tiny. That is motorcycle territory. And yet, this engine can run at full power for hours. It can survive neglect. It can survive abuse. It can survive things that would kill a Lycoming. I know a guy who uses a Rotax 912 in an Aeropract Foxbat. He flies in Alaska. In the winter, it is 40 below zero. In the summer, it is 90 above. He lands on gravel bars. He takes off from sand. He never changes the oil on time. He never cleans the radiator. He treats that engine like a rented mule. The engine has 2,000 hours on it. It has never been opened. It burns no oil. It starts instantly. That is not luck. That is design. The Rotax 912 was designed to be reliable. It was designed for light sport aircraft that fly every day. It was designed for pilots who are not mechanics. And it works. The Rotax has a weakness: the gearbox, the reduction drive that slows the propeller down. It needs maintenance. The rubber dampers wear out. The bearings need grease. If you ignore the gearbox, it will fail. And when it fails, it takes the engine with it. But if you follow the maintenance schedule, the gearbox will last, and the engine will last even longer. There are Rotax 912s with 5,000 hours. 6,000. I have heard of one with 7,500 hours. That is more than most Lycomings. That is more than most Continentals. That is more than most pilots will ever fly. Let me pause again. I want you to think about the Rotax. Have you flown behind one? Do you trust it? Or do you think it is a glorified motorcycle engine? Go to the comments, tell me your opinion, because the Rotax is the future. The Lycoming and Continental are the past. The past is reliable. The past is proven. The past is also heavy, inefficient, and expensive. The Rotax is light, efficient, and affordable. It is the engine that will power the next generation of light aircraft. the Pipistrel Panthera, the Sling TSI, the Rands S-21, the Aeropract Foxbat. These are the airplanes that your grandchildren will fly, and they will fly behind Rotax engines. Now let me talk about the engines that did not make the list. The Continental 0470. This is the 6-cylinder engine that powers the Cessna 182, the Cessna 180, and the early Beechcraft Bonanzas. It is a good engine. It is powerful. It is smooth. It is also heavy. It is also thirsty. It also has a weakness. The cylinders crack, not all of them, not often, but often enough. The 0470 is not as reliable as the 0320. It is not as simple as the 0200. It is not as tough as the I0360. It is a good engine, but it is not great. And it will not outlive your grandchildren. It will need cylinders. It will need overhauls. It will need love. That is fine. But it is not on this list. The Lycoming 0540. This is the 6-cylinder version of the 03600. It powers the Piper Cherokee 6, the Cessna 206, and the Beechcraft Debonair. It is powerful. It is reliable. It also has a weakness, the camshaft. Same as the IO3600, but worse because the 0540 is often used in heavy airplanes that are operated at high power settings. The heat is higher, the stress is higher, the wear is higher. The 0540 will last. It will run for 2,000 hours, maybe 2,500, but not 5,000, not 8,000, not like the 0320, not like the Rotax, the Continental TSI-0520. This is the turbocharged, fuel-injected 6-cylinder engine that powers the Cessna 210 and the Piper Malibu. It is complex, it is powerful, it is also fragile. The turbo adds heat, the intercooler adds weight, the fuel injection adds complexity. The engine has more than twice as many parts as an 0320. More parts means more failure points. The TSI-052 will not outlive your grandchildren. It will outlive your wallet. It will need constant maintenance, constant attention, constant money. That is the price of speed. If you want to go fast, you pay. If you want to last, you keep it simple. Here is my ranking. Number 1 for longevity, the Lycoming 0320, the gold standard, the engine that set the bar. Number 2, the Continental 0200, the little engine that could. Number 3, the Lycoming IO360, the modern workhorse. Number 4, the Rotax 912, the future. Everything else is a compromise. Some compromises are worth making, some are not. You have to decide. Let me give you some advice. If you are buying an airplane, buy the engine first. The airframe is just a shell. The engine is the soul. A good engine in a bad airframe is a project. A bad engine in a good airframe is a money pit. Find the airplane with the engine that lasts. The 0320, the 0200, the IO360, the Rotax 912. These are the engines that will still be running when your grandchildren are learning to fly. These are the engines that deserve your money, your time, your trust. Now let me talk about maintenance, because even the best engine will die if you ignore it. The 0320 will run with minimal care, but it will run longer with proper care. Change the oil every 50 hours. Use the right oil, not the cheap stuff, not the car oil, the good stuff, the aviation stuff. Change the oil filter every oil change. Cut it open. Look for metal. That is how you catch problems early. Check the valves every annual. Adjust them if needed. It is easy. It takes an hour. Do it. Fly the engine regularly. Every week if you can. Every 2 weeks at minimum. Engines that sit die. Engines that fly live. The 0200 is the same. Change the oil. Clean the screens. Check the valves. Fly it. The O200 is forgiving. It will tolerate some neglect, but not total neglect. Do not let it sit for 6 months. Do not let the rust form. Do not let the cam spall. Fly it, even if it is just for 30 minutes. Fly it. The IO360 is less forgiving. The cam is the weak point. You need to fly it often. You need to get the oil hot. You need to burn off the moisture. You need to use anti-corrosion additives. Cam guard, aeroshell, something. Do not skip. The IO360 will punish you if you do. But if you treat it right, it will reward you. With thousands of hours, with reliable service, with peace of mind. The Rotax 912 is different. It has a maintenance schedule, a real schedule. Not just oil changes, gearbox service, coolant changes, ignition checks. You have to follow it. The Rotax will not tolerate neglect. It is not a Lycoming. It is not a Continental. It is a precision machine. Treat it like one. But if you do, if you follow the schedule, if you use the right parts, if you take it seriously, the Rotax will outlast everything. Even the O320, even the O200, even the IO360. The Rotax is the future, and the future is reliable. Let me pause one more time. I want to hear from the mechanics, the people who see these engines every day. Which one do you see less of? Which one comes in for repairs less often? Which one do you trust with your family? Go to the comments, tell me. And I want to hear from the pilots, the ones who have flown behind these engines for years. Which one never let you down? Which one failed at the worst moment? Tell your stories. Because the truth is in the data, and the data is in the hangars, in the logbooks, in the memories. Share them. Here is my final thought. The engines that will outlive your grandchildren are the ones that were built to last. Not to impress. Not to win races. Not to set records. To last. The Lycoming 0320. The Continental 0200. The Lycoming IO360. The Rotax 912. These are the engines that have proven themselves. Over decades, over millions of hours, over every condition imaginable. They are not perfect, they have weaknesses, but they are the best we have. And they are good enough. Good enough to take you up. Good enough to bring you down. Good enough to teach your children, and their children, and their children. That is legacy. That is durability. That is the engine that will outlive your grandchildren. Go find yours, fly it, love it, pass it down. That is what pilots do. That is what engines are for.